Hi, I'm Randy, that Geeky Maker, and today I'll be making a gift for one of my fellow YouTubers. As you can see, I'm not in my workshop right now. I'm standing in front of this giant wall of board games, which is my personal collection. And a lot of these games were actually purchased because I saw them on a YouTube channel called Watch It Played, where the host, Rodney Smith, will teach you how to play board games so that you don't have to read the rule books. Now, I haven't had a chance to meet Rodney in person, but I have interacted with him a bit online, and I really enjoy watching his personal vlog, and he seems like a super nice guy. And oftentimes on his vlog, he will unbox gifts that fans sent to him. So I thought it would be fun if I actually made something to send to him. So today I'll be making some wooden board game piece holders, and to make them extra special, I'll be making them in the shape of the Meeple from the Watch It Played logo. So let's head out to the shop and get started. Okay, so the goal today is to take this piece of mahogany and turn it into a bunch of board game bits holders in the shape of the Meeple from the Watch It Played logo. And I've already gone ahead and created a pattern of that in Inkscape. And there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could create a pattern within this pattern, cut the inside and outside out on the bandsaw, and I'd end up with something that looks kind of like a cookie cutter, and then I could just glue it back onto it. But that would leave a 90-degree edge on the bottom, and when you have something square like that, it's kind of difficult sometimes to dig the board game pieces out of there with your finger. So I'd really like it to have a round edge, which means I'm probably going to have to freehand all of these with the router. And excuse me for just 1 second. R2, I'm filming right now. Look, this really isn't the best time. Really? What? What's that? Oh, a router bit with a bearing on it. Hey, that's a great idea. I could just use a pattern and... Hey, why are you being so helpful? Oh, right. You like Watch It Played too. You want to say hi? I think Rodney might watch this video. I told you he doesn't take requests. Look, just wave hi, okay?
Okay, so the first step here is going to be to transfer this paper pattern onto a piece of 1/4-inch hardboard so that the bearing on the router bit will have something to write against. I'll be using a scroll saw to make this cut, so I need to make a hole for the blade to pass through. The advantage of using a scroll saw for a cut like this is that you can get a completely inside cut without having to cut from the outside like I would have to do with the bandsaw. As you can see here, I'm deliberately not cutting on the line. The reason for this is so that I can have room to sand down to the line later. Now I can sand right down to that line using my oscillating spindle sander. Any edges that the sander couldn't reach can be cleaned up with a file. Now I need to make a jig so that the piece of wood that I'm going to be routing can just slide under the pattern. After making the pattern, I realized that I was going to need it to be a bit thicker, so I cut another one out, and I'm going to use the pattern cutting bit on my router in order to make them the same shape. This bit has a bearing on it that's exactly flush with the blade, so as the bearing rides around on the pattern that's on the bottom, it will cut the top one to exactly the same shape. Now that the pattern's ready, I can go ahead and start routing. I've got the router bit that R2 gave me installed in my router, and I've got the depth gauge set here so that all of the cuts will have the same maximum depth. I'm going to start by plunging the router just far enough so that the top of the bearing makes contact with the top of the pattern. You can't plunge this all at once, otherwise the cut would be way too deep and it would burn the wood and probably cause the router to jolt. With each subsequent pass, I lower the router just a little bit more until I reach the maximum depth. As you can see, this makes a lot of dust. Anyone for a game of Scythe? Now I've switched to a 1/8 inch roundover bit. I'm going to use this bit to round over the inside edge of all the pieces before I cut them out. It's much easier to do it this way because at this point the router has plenty of wood underneath it to support it. Before heading over to the bandsaw, I'm going to mark these out with a compass. And I'm also going to use the miter saw to cut out each individual piece. Now it's time to cut these out to their final shape using my favorite tool, the bandsaw. This saw cuts much smoother than the scroll saw because the blade only goes in one direction. And once again, I'm deliberately not cutting on the line so I can sand down to it. Now that these are all cut out, I can use the disc sander to sand down to the line. And for the inside edges, I can once again use the oscillating spindle sander. Now I've got the same roundover bit that I was using in my router earlier, except this time I have it installed in the router table so that I can round over the top and bottom outside edges. Unfortunately, even with all the help from the power sanders, these still required a lot of hand sanding. I used a few different grits all the way from 80 down to 220 and then finished it up with a Scotch-Brite pad. For the finish on this, I'm going to be using a mixture of boiled linseed oil and polyurethane, thinned down with a little bit of mineral spirits. I deliberately chose mahogany for this project because it has a reddish tint to it, which is perfect because the Meeple in the logo is red. Once that's soaked in for about 10 minutes, I can go ahead and wipe off the excess. After letting these dry overnight, I'll add one more coat of finish and these will be ready for their journey across the continent to Rodney.
Well, here they are, 8 Meeple-shaped board game piece holders. I think they turned out great. What do you think, R2? Well, Rodney, I hope you enjoy using these as much as I enjoyed making them, and I hope all of you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments, and please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.